The combination of the natural features of the soil, the genetic footprint of each corner of the Mendoza Piedmont, and the sensitive labor of the winemaker who understands each vine plant as if it were their own child produces these wines that reflect the true expression of their place of origin. Masal selections from centennial vines in the hands of small Andean vine growers Hector and Pablo Durigutti. The Durigutis, man. The bros are like serious, man. These guys are like Mendoza wine mob. Like, they got their hands in everything, these cats, and why shouldn't they? The Duriguti brothers are super talented. They've built an incredible business, you know, all the way back to, you can talk about Renacer, you can talk about the Duriguti wines, you can talk about Altos Las Hormigas, you can talk about La Madrid, a number of labels that they've had their hands in that have created a number of spectacular wines. Not including like the actual Duriguti label itself, which these guys do this like a preponderance of wines. They have like probably 30 different cuvées, but you know, it's separated into strata that kind of each has their own mojo, whether it's like fruit forward stuff, whether it's stuff that's like terroir specific, whether it's stuff that's like super luxe, single vineyard, what have you. But we've been particularly charmed by their Monte range of wines. And this is something super cool. So like I read you at the start, basically the foot of the mountain is what they're talking about. And the whole key here is to get Masal selections, like original selections from these great old vineyards, from some of these great old growers, plant new vineyards with these selections, and then use really minimal winemaking to kind of accentuate the terroir from these particular areas. Because here's the deal. Argentina wants terroir. They want an understanding of their place. Mendoza wants an understanding of the different areas within Mendoza, and they want Malbec to do it. But here's the rub. Malbec is like a like Malbec goes, terroir, whatevs. I'm Malbec. And we've had this discussion before, you know, talking about the fact that the varietal impact of Malbec is so strong that the terroir can definitely be masked in a lot of these wines. So the Durigutis, Mattias Riccitelli, the Catenas, all these cats are like trying to push the envelope. Where do we get to the point where the terroir really starts shining in these wines? And they've started to find it. And it's through projects like this Monte. So the Duriguti brothers, this is a newer vineyard. So they took the cuttings from these 100-year-old vines, planted them in 2005, and it started producing wine, you know, half a dozen years later. The key here is transparency. So native yeast, everything's done in concrete. No oak, kids, no oak. This isn't the Malbec from 20 years ago, lots of new French oak, yada yada, etc. This is all concrete. Picked pretty reasonably early. The alcohol here is 13.9, which is a nice, fine, proper alcohol for mountain growing Malbec. This is perfectly beautiful. Now they do a series of these wines, but the one that really captured our interest was this one from the Finca Las Jarillas, a single vineyard site in Gualtallary. That to us, Gualtallary is like, yeah, the hood. You know, other areas are coming along. You know, Agrelos is, you know, these areas, other areas, Sapillo, all these different areas are producing pretty interesting wines. But for us, this area, Gualtallary, is producing some of the most profound Malbecs out there. And not because they're the biggest wines, right? We're getting away from big. We already know Malbec can do big. Malbec is naturally prone to creating these big blue purple wines that have this wonderful extract of fruit and intensity and flavor. That's not the issue. The key here is building in complexity. The key here is building in terroir. The key here is giving these winemakers some sense of hope, that there is a great sense of place in these wines. And they're starting to do it. They're starting to do it. So here we go, the Piedemonte from the Duriguti brothers. Again, young vines, old clone Malbec from Gualtallary. Here we got limestone. All right, so the base soil here is limestone, and that limestone starts to crumble and gets a bit rocky and pebbly as it comes up into the sand topsoil. So you got sand on top, and you got like this limestone, this crumbly limestone underneath, which is the best of both worlds. Limestone creates a structure, naturally low pH, so naturally bright, riveting wines from this limestone soil. But the sand gives you That's what sand does. It's all about, sand gives you this warmth, this elegance, this ease, fineness, not finesse per se, but fineness in the wines. And put together, it could be pretty interesting wine, especially from young vines. Check it out. This is pretty interesting, right? Moving forward, let's fast forward like 1 minute in the piece. So Decanter World Wine Awards, all the Argentines like send their wines in. All the big dogs do. Alejandro Fijil from Enemigo, and all these guys send wines in to Decanter for these World Wine Awards because it's a real competition. So they get a lot of entries, what, like 40,000 wines? I'm trying to remember, Patrick, is like 40,000 wines or something like that. And it's a ton. And the reason is, it's like real judges. So all the wineries in the world are like, no, I don't want to send my wine to some BS wine competition where the winemaker's mom is doing the judging. Like, I want to send my wine somewhere where like people that know their shiznit are actually looking at the wines. And the Decanter World Wine Awards is one of those scenarios where they're actually looking at the wines, all tasted blind. And the reason I digress to that, because when you first stick your face in the glass, there's a lot going on. This wine smells expensive, but not because of oak. It smells expensive because of stuff. There's mineral. You can smell the limestone. You can smell the flowers from the Malbec. You have the ingratiating component of the sandy soils coming in here. So blind, and believe me, I'm one of those nerds, right? I do that judging, I judge. Blind, you really get sucked into this wine straight away, I can tell you. Really compelling, strangely compelling for the price. We'll get to that. Oh man, I can see why this wine blew the doors off blind. Put this in a tasting with Malbecs that are new Malbecs, right? Not 10-year-old Malbecs. Put this in a tasting with Malbecs from the last 3 vintages that are like 50, 60, 70 bucks a bottle. You're gonna be, well, maybe you won't be surprised because I'm kind of letting you in on it now, but you might be pleasantly surprised what you're gonna find out here. This wine is really compelling and not a stitch of oak, man. Concrete's really in vogue right now, not just in Mendoza, but just around the world. Concrete's really happening as a fermentation and aging vessel because it has the transparency. It's a cool fermenter. With climate change, it works really well for the current conditions that we're encountering at harvest time. And I can see why people are so interested in concrete. Some people take it too far. The wines are too lean, too angry. Not here. The Durigutis know exactly what to do with this juice. Man, what a beautiful bottle of wine. Just so pure and blue, floral, minerally, spicy. This is pretty sick gear. Really sick gear. So 97 points from Decanter in the World Wine Awards. It's the highest score. Decanter World Wine Awards gives no score over 97 points. That's the 100 for them. The top score, best in show, right? So they tasted all these Malbecs, and believe me, the single vineyard wines from Enemigo and all these wines were up against it. Wines that were $100, $150, $130. Number one, top, best in show. I can see it, I get it. Durigutis, man, game on, right? 20 bucks a bottle. This wine at 20 bucks a bottle is wildly compelling Argentine Malbec. And if you're worried about Argentine Malbec being too big, or Argentine Malbec being oaky, or Argentine Malbec being too this or too that, freaking grab a bottle of this gear. This is beautiful, serious gear from the Duriguti brothers, you know. Then they do a range of this Monte wines, but again, the Gualtallary was our favorite. We cherry picked it, and looking back on it now, I haven't had this wine in 3-4 months since we did the deal, and looking back on it now, it's like, high five, I'm amazing. Like, this stuff's great. So 1998, 97 points in stock now. Get yourself some, it's amazing stuff.